The obstacle is the way. Part 1 Perception. Practice objectivity. Don't let the force of an impression when it first hit you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, hold on a moment. Let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test. EPICTETUS. The phrase "this happened and it is bad" is actually two impressions. The first "this happened" is objective. The second "it is bad" is subjective. The 16th-century samurai swordsman Miyamoto Musashi won countless fights against feared opponents, even multiple opponents, in which he was swordless. In the Book of Five Rings, he notes the difference between observing and perceiving. The perceiving eye is weak, he wrote, the observing eye is strong. Musashi understood that the observing eye sees simply what is there. The perceiving eye sees more than what is there. The observing eye sees events, clear of distractions, exaggerations, and misperceptions. The perceiving eye sees insurmountable obstacles or major setbacks or even just issues. It brings its own issues to the fight. The former is helpful, the latter is not. To paraphrase Nietzsche, sometimes being superficial, taking things only at first glance, is the most profound approach. In our own lives, how many problems seem to come from applying judgments to things we don't control, as though there were a way they were supposed to be? How often do we see what we think is there or should be there, instead of what actually is there? Having steadied ourselves and held back our emotions, we can see things as they really are. We can do that using our observing eye. Perceptions are the problem. They give us the information that we don't need, exactly at the moment when it would be far better to focus on what is immediately in front of us. The thrust of a sword, a crucial business negotiation, an opportunity, a flash of insight, or anything else, for that matter. Everything about our animalistic brains tries to compress the space between impression and perception. Think, perceive, act with milliseconds between them. A deer's brain tells it to run because things are bad. It runs. Sometimes, right into traffic. We can question that impulse. We can disagree with it. We can override the switch, examine the threat before we act. But this takes strength. It's a muscle that must be developed. And muscles are developed by tension, by lifting and holding. This is why Musashi and most martial arts practitioners focus on mental training as much as on physical training. Both are equally important and require equally vigorous exercise and practice. In the writings of the Stoics we see an exercise that might well be described as contemptuous expressions. The Stoics use contempt as an agent to lay things bare and to strip away the legend that encrusts them. Epictetus told his students, when they'd quote some great thinker, to picture themselves observing the person having sex. It's funny, you should try it the next time someone intimidates you or makes you feel insecure. See them in your mind, grunting, groaning, and awkward in their private life just like the rest of us. Marcus Aurelius had a version of this exercise where he described glamorous or expensive things without their euphemisms. Roasted meat is a dead animal and vintage wine is old, fermented grapes. The aim was to see these things as they really are, without any of the ornamentation. We can do this for anyone or to anything that stands in our way. That promotion that means so much, what is it really? Our critics and naysayers who make us feel small, let's put them in their proper place. It's so much better to see things as they truly, actually are, not as we've made them in our minds. Objectivity means removing the subjective part from the equation. Just think, what happens when we give others advice? Their problems are crystal clear to us, the solution's obvious. Something that's present when we deal with our own obstacles is always missing when we hear other people's problems, the baggage. With other people we can be objective. We take the situation at face value and immediately set about helping our friend to solve it. Selfishly and stupidly we save the pity and the sense of persecution and the complaints for our own lives. Take your situation and pretend it is not happening to you. Pretend it is not important, that it doesn't matter. How much easier would it be for you to know what to do? How much more quickly and dispassionately could you size up the scenario and its options? You could write it off, greet it calmly. Think of all the ways that someone could solve a specific problem. No, really think. Give yourself clarity, not sympathy. There'll be plenty of time for that later. It's an exercise, which means it takes repetition. The more you try it, the better you get at it. The more skilled you become seeing things for what they are, the more perception will work for you rather than against you.